There was an article in The Intercept by Li Fang, and it was titled, "Civil Rights Groups Funded by Telecoms Back Donald Trump's Plan to Kill Net Neutrality." And we know net neutrality is on the chopping block, potentially. Obama saved it, and now the telecom industry, Comcast and the like, they are looking to kill it. The new nominee of the Federal Communications Commission, his name... Ajit Pai is his name.
Yeah.
So this story I thought was really interesting because what Li Fang writes about is the way that the telecom industry has funded various civil rights groups over the years, and all of a sudden, these civil rights groups are now coming out supporting the telecom industry position on net neutrality.
Money talks, baby.
We have the first, I think I have some graphics.
So to me, this is like the veterans when they came out against Prop 61. Remember Prop 61, Bernie's bill, where they would be able to negotiate drug prices like the veterans do, VA? And then they had commercials all over the place running in front of my videos on the Jimmy Dore Show with veterans going, "We're against this, you assholes," because they took money. Right? That's what this is.
The article begins, "Leading civil rights groups who for many years have been heavily bankrolled by the telecom industry are signaling their support for Donald Trump's promised rollback of the Obama administration's net neutrality rules, which prevent internet service providers from prioritizing some content providers over others." Next quote. In a little-noticed joint letter released last week, the NAACP, Asian Americans Advancing Justice, OCA, formerly known as the Organization for Chinese Americans, the National Urban League, and other civil rights organizations sharply criticized the jurisdictional and classificational problems that plagued the last FCC, a reference to the legal mechanism used by the Obama administration to accomplish net neutrality. Next is, instead of classifying broadband as a public utility, the letter states, open internet rules should be written by statute. What does that mean? It means the Republican-led Congress should take control of the process, the precise approach that is favored by industry. Last one, I think, one or two more. The civil rights group opposed to net neutrality, the civil rights groups opposed to net neutrality have employed several arguments against the proposal. In one filing made in 2010, the NAACP argued that net neutrality reforms were a waste of resources because the FCC should focus on more pressing racial discrimination and exclusionary hiring and promotion practices of certain Silicon Valley high-tech companies. In a separate filing in 2014, the NAACP argued that reclassification would threaten the fragile state of minority engagement in the digital ecosystem. While advocating against net neutrality, the organizations on the joint letter have raked in money from the telecom industry. The NAACP, which signed letters opposing net neutrality both times the rule was proposed by the Obama administration, has named AT&T, Verizon, and Comcast as corporate fundraising partners.
No shit.
After the NAACP endorsed Comcast's merger with NBC, what the fuck the NAACP is commenting on that for, who knows? Comcast disclosed that the NAACP was one of the recipients of $1.8 billion in funds doled out to various community groups. Well, there, I answered my own question. So, okay, so what's going on here is that we have these civil rights groups that are getting funded by Verizon and Comcast, maybe not directly, but indirectly through industry groups that they, umbrella groups that they create. And then they take the money, and then these groups essentially call in that shit and say, hey, NAACP, we need you to support us on net neutrality, on ending net neutrality. And then NAACP says, well, net neutrality is not really that, that's not our issue. As long as Comcast is with us on, fighting discrimination in the workplace or whatever it is, then sure, we'll support you on that. But it is corrupt. It is money corrupting the NAACP, and the system is run by money. The NAACP needs money. The OCA and Americans Advancing Justice, they all need money, and they all have ties to these large telecom firms. So the National Urban League received $1.2 million from Verizon in 2014 alone, and senior officials from AT&T, Verizon, and Comcast have held positions on the National Urban League's board. So Comcast, let's just use Comcast as the example. They get what we call like greenwashing if it's an oil company and they donate money to some, to the Nature Conservancy. This is a way that they can, I'm sure it's all over their website, and they promote how we support the NAACP, and that makes them feel good about themselves. That can make you, as a Comcast subscriber, say, yeah, they're a shitty company and they're assholes and my service is terrible. But you know what? They support the NAACP, so that's pretty good. But then when it comes time for the NAACP, for some reason, to take a stand on net neutrality, then the earlier ones that I mentioned in the article, those were examples of when the NAACP they were critical of net neutrality previously, saying, oh, the FCC should be worrying about other things. Why the FCC can't
do both?
It's not mentioned. I mean, it doesn't even make any sense. I mean, you look back on the quotes, it's like, what the hell are you talking about? That the FCC can't handle net neutrality and also worry about Silicon Valley, hiring practices. I mean, it's patently ridiculous, and nobody cares. But I'm not saying nobody cares, but nobody's going to notice this. But Li Fang does a little research and says, hey, turns out that the NAACP and these other civil rights groups that are supporting the telecom industry for some inexplicable reason on an issue that, if anything, net neutrality is good for poor people, for African Americans, for marginalized communities, because it gives them equal access to the internet instead of limiting their access because they don't have money. Well, there's a reason why these groups do it, and it's one of the countless ways that money corrodes our politics and undermines our democracy.
Hey, if you enjoyed this clip of Aggressive Progressive, why not become a member of the TYT network, and you can watch the whole hour. We do a show every Thursday, and then you can watch it live when it happens as a member, or you can watch it later at your convenience because you get access to the podcast of Aggressive Progressive and other ways to get a hold of it. There's lots of stuff. Come become a member at tytnetwork.com/join.